Yo, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Father Time with D'Amico and Blair, the podcast where dads talk about relationships, careers, passions, and fatherhood, and balancing in all those things. I am Blair, your play partner, host of Motion Country Cousin, father of a 7-year-old whirlwind, and this is my brother D'Amico.
Your resident first-time dad, just navigating those wild waters of toddlerhood. Man, it's crazy out here.
Bro, it is. And it's even crazier because we are legit on all streaming platforms. And thank you guys for your continued support. So today, who we got popping in the chair is let's bring him in so he can get it, so he can hear his flowers. Let's get him into the studio.
All right, let's get him in.
We have when it comes to fatherhood, the very 007-esque, but when it comes to things with the camera, when it comes to shooting videos, taking pictures, and being that ultimate supporter, we got the sniper of all sniper. We got Ube Wolf on Instagram, but we got Patrick here with us today. How you doing, bro?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, appreciate y'all. It's a good time, good fun. We'll talk about, I don't know, being a dad.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about all the things in there, bro. A lot of it is we just honestly want to get to know Patrick. Outside of Instagram, and we know, not saying that you're one of those people, but we know sometimes a lot of our Instagrams can be like in a brand sense where we're trying to just show one thing and like set up who we are, and we kind of not hide, but we put family or the nerdy things that we have on the back burner. So this is definitely that time for you.
For sure. Yeah, good to get to know y'all as well, and yeah, just have a authentic conversation, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. So Patrick, aka Ube Wolf, appreciate you hopping on the call with us. For the audience that does not know, give us an origin story of Ube Wolf. As a fellow Filipino person, I know what Ube is. Why don't you tell us the origin of Ube Wolf?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it all started, like, I took time off social media for whatever reason, and I came back into social media and was like, all right, well, let's do like a new handle or whatnot, right? So how could we take a nod to Filipino heritage and culture, and really kind of juxtapose that on like the creative world of being kind of a lone wolf? So we took Ube and we took Wolf and we put it together. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. It was just a thing, right? And then we got more involved in the golf space, and people started calling me Ube, and it just kind of stuck. So we kind of roll with it now. We put only the government name, and we're told to put the government name on the flight or the passport or whatnot. But yeah, so it's always a little weird when you get called that. I think it started to really kind of click for me when I like pulled up into like one of the meetings like this. You know how your name's on the bottom corner, and someone in the meeting was like, "Who the hell is Patrick?" And I was like, "Oh, that's actually me. That's me." It was like I didn't change it. So I was like, kind of from that point, I was like, maybe I should just change it, because if I come in rolling in as Patrick, they're like, "Who invited the rando to the meeting?"
Where the hell's Ube? No, so when we had the conversation about bringing you on, and the first thing D'Amico said, he's like, "I can let you know right now, his name is not Ube. Like, it is." And I was like,
man, like he's hella Filipino.
So to me, it was like that Mr. Krabs meme. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? All right, so what does Ube mean?
It's like a dessert. So like it comes in different forms, but I think the most popular within like the Filipino culture, or even those that recognize, is it's like this purplish dessert. My favorite form of it is like an ice cream. It's like a vanilla toffee type flavor. It's delicious. But it also comes in like other forms of like bread and like pastries and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where it's kind of origin of what it is. That's
Eugene, yeah. Do we have a Filipino spot where I can get this ice cream? Because it sounds fire. Salt and straw. I'm counting on you.
Yeah, Salt and Straw does. They have like Filipino week.
Do they?
And they have like ube ice cream. Yeah, they do. Also, Wanderlust is a spot, but I'd say my favorite is Ranch 99 or 99 Ranch depends on who you are on how you say that. But they have ube ice cream. It's made by this brand called Magnolia. Um, to me, that's probably the best, just because growing up, that was kind of the jam. Like, you did good in school, the folks was happy. We pulled up the thing. We're like, Mom, can we get some ice cream? And she's like, yeah. And like, that was the choice.
Got the Magnolia on deck. There we go. Love it.
So Magnolia, if you listening, come on, you got to take care of
take care of the boys, you dig? Take care of the boys.
Yeah, when I first saw Ube Wolf, and I was like, all right, well, I know what Ube is. I'm like, wolf. I'm like, all right, so is he just tearing up Ube? Is that what it is? I didn't make the connection of like a lone wolf thing. I was just like, is he just going in on Ube right now?
Yeah, so, we were going ham, like Keith Lee eats, but with ube everything food.
We got it. Let's try it. Ready, 1 through 10.
I
could just see Ube sitting down doing this at like a ramen spot.
So on that topic, if you were to host the Masters Champion dinner, what is your Filipino themed menu looking like?
Oh yeah, we would definitely go heavy. I guess with that being said, I'm always pulling for Jason Day to win, because I think he'd do us right to some extent.
Shout out J Day.
He would do us right. But yeah, it'd have to be some lumpia for sure. Like, that's just got to be some pancit for some long life. Halo for dessert. And then, like, it kind of depends on, I guess it kind of just depends on how you're feeling that week. You can go some like pork adobo, or you can, I don't know, or you can do like some breakfast type, just like some longanisa and egg. I think that would be kind of a game time decision, but I think those first three are pretty staple. I think those who are attending the dinner would be all right with it. Or you could throw like a curveball and do like some chocolate meat type action. And
Excuse
see
me?
if people vibing with it.
Because I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen this on Food Network. Explain to the people what chocolate meat is. As my jaw dropped to the ground for our listeners. We gotta talk to our listeners now too.
Yeah, so chocolate meat isn't chocolate. What it is, it's meat, but it's cooked in pig's blood. But when you cook it, the blood turns into a darker tone. So yeah, growing up, it was called chocolate to me. And then I would eat it. I was like, this is delicious. Then I would ask, I'm like, yo,
how does chocolate taste different?
You don't want to know.
yeah, Lola, is this chocolate? And she's like, no, it's not. So yeah, but chocolate just sounds a little bit more endearing of a term when it comes into food instead of blood meat.
I think that's probably the best way to throw off your competitors for the upcoming week is just like, yo, put it on the menu, chocolate meat, here we go. And then you ask, and then they're just going to be hugging that porcelain at the end of the night, probably just thinking about it.
Some mental win right there, bro. Mental win.
Sorry. Or you could rock some like balut, and that would just kind of end the competition for the
I don't mess with that. I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
Again, for the people who are not watching, for our viewers just listening, my mouth is wide open. I don't know what any of this is, so I'm like more shocked. And the names start to get more and more like what
literally.
Yeah, so it depends on how much you love and hate your enemy. But I think balut is like what'd you say? Like a half. It's an egg where like the embryo is still kind of intact. So like there's like the bird has like certain parts of it that are still there.
Yeah, you can visually see what it could have been. I don't mess with it. I don't mess with it.
Yeah, I've had it. I don't mess with it. And it's funny, the reason why I bring it up, aside from your question, but I just saw a video. Cardi B had like a TikTok where she tried it. So her reaction was priceless in terms of like us or me knowing what it is and her not knowing.
Jeez, that's insane. That's an insane dish. But I guess, like a lot of people don't like fufu, but for my African brothers out there, we love it. It's like it's a big family thing.
So fufu is fire.
You've had fufu?
I've had it once.
Nice. Clean your hands, get the masa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do that thing right. So with keeping with the theme of our podcast, our icebreaker question, which is Ube, what are your top 5 fictional fathers?
It's a good question. I remember you sent it and I was like, what would it be? And I think to lead off, first things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil. Like it's gotta
For
be
real.
it's gotta be it's gotta be Uncle Phil. I think growing up and watching the show and just trying to seeing the arc of the show and seeing the arc of Will and all the family members that are involved. I think that show doesn't exist obviously without Will, but also with Uncle Phil. Like I just there was a relatability as you were younger of like, oh, like that's kind of how it's supposed to be in terms of like support and kind of riding through life with someone that's there. Bernie Mac would be second. Recipe with Bernie Mac. Again, just watching that, I love that when he would kind of just ISO shot of just him kind of doing an interview and just talking mess about all the kids, but also providing like those tidbits and things for the episodes, you know. Danny Tanner, Full House, just a house full of kids. that dynamic in SF. I mean, it was a fun show to watch, but kind of just seeing how he dealt with those personalities. Then the other one would be, and this is more recency bias, but Uncle Iroh, he is like the uncle in Avatar. I'm not sure if you watched like the last Airbender Avatar series.
I'm watching it right now.
High word. Yeah, so he was like a father figure to one of kind of the main characters, Prince Zuko. I guess for those that haven't watched, basically Prince Zuko was a prince royal family, and then he got basically kicked out of the family because he did something. No spoilers, but that uncle was there kind of for him, kind of through his journey and finding himself, and again seeing the arc of him being there and also the development of that character was pretty cool to see. And also just one of the characters that stand out. So I was glad they did the reboot, and it was good to see kind of how they reportrayed him back in the new series. And then the last one, I think very just on brand in terms of like this podcast, is just Father Time. Basically, there's no face to it. It's just, what does that time teach each of us? So it's not man or woman. It's just kind of the ideal of how does time affect your decisions, your outlooks and perspectives kind of as we continue to go day by day. So I think that one is kind of an interesting one, but I think it is a representative figure of how all of us learn.
That's fire as hell. Like the ideology of time as being a father figure is deep.
That's
already.
Deep. Yo, damn. Shout out to you to use the name on it. That's awesome. I love it. That's what's up.
How did your golf journey start in general, and how did that translate to your Instagram content creation journey?
So I was like a teen-ish, like 13, 14. I really forget like kind of the exact timing, but I know it was kind of in that pocket. And yeah, I thought the game was for old people. Like you just old and you couldn't do anything else. And there was a guy who was pretty good at golf, and I was like, oh, well, maybe it could be like him. Like he was the most representative of a brown skinned person that someone could relate to at that time. So obviously the Tiger era affected a lot of people. And I think I talked my dad into getting a club. I think we got it from like a Goodwill or something, like a Dunlop titanium driver. And we went to like the range for the first time. So that was like the first time I was like, oh yeah, golf's cool. And then from that point, I played for a bit and I thought it'd be good. Turns out I just was playing and then kind of put up, like just took the game away. I was like, all right, I don't want to play anymore. And then, yeah, they collected dust. And I'd say about a couple years ago, just before COVID, it was just like, well, I saw him in the corner and I was like, okay, maybe go back to the range, dusting them off. And then COVID hit and the world essentially just said, no, everyone stay inside. So I think that was part of the catalyst of wanting to play more and kind of getting back in tune to the game. So that's like a quick story of like how I left the game and then came back. And then in terms of the creative portion of that is I had a job before, or did stuff that was prior to creative. And then I started to moonlight for kind of that company. And it turned out that there was a kind of a transition, and I got to a point where is, do I find another career job in terms of like what I was doing, or do I venture into the creative world and try to create just different things in that space? So I settled on golf. Basically, it was, can I create something that takes two things that I really love at the time, and the new passion for golf, and yeah, I just tried to see if we can make it work, and that's essentially kind of how I started to create more in the golf space and looking to connect with other people, and um, how that all started.
I mean, I think your ability to genuinely tell stories is maybe second to none. I mean, you see a lot of content out there, and it's very in front of the camera, the person just talking. The imagery that you use in your content, like, it just really paints a picture. Like the video you did for Blocky, that was freaking nuts. I'm like, this guy just played, and then I'm like scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, all right, he's already got the video ready. I'm like, I don't get it, but it just blew me away on how quickly. I mean, maybe from my perspective, it was quick as far as how quickly you put that story out. But yeah, just your storytelling ability, man, is just, it's second to none, and I really do resonate with your content, and how you're able to just tell beautiful stories so simplistically.
Appreciate that. Yeah, like just trying to create just trying to create a story as authentic as it can be, based on not only the experience that's happening, but also kind of on personal experience, right? Like, I'm sure each of us has gone through things in our life where something has happened, or we've experienced something from other people, and kind of what are those experiences that we can draw from to kind of use as a muse to create something. And it just so happens like that's kind of the medium that I've chosen to use. Um, so yeah, it does mean everything, just to kind of hear the positive kind of affirmations from you, and then just kind of seeing the positive reactions from others, because it at the end of the day, as you know, as like creatively, you're probably your own worst critic, and not even in the creative world, probably just kind of in life yourself, right?
Yeah.
So to hear kind of the positive aspects amongst like the surplus of negative stuff that goes on in the world is always a good thing to hear, and a blessing to be a part of.
I think we've said this at least on every podcast. Good dope sells itself.
But don't get high on your own supply. You know,
Nah. No, that's where I'm looking at the Instagram comments kind of helps you out. Yeah, it balances you out. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know,
I
that
mean,
you're good.
yeah.
You gotta look at a couple Instagram comments and be like, "Hey, I seen somebody do that yesterday." It's like, appreciate it, thank you.
No, man, I'm just there. Like, I want to be just in the conversation and kind of without ego, right? I think I post something or you see something, and I think that, for at least for myself, that's the goal. Like, that was a take and a perspective in that moment in time, and it is what it is. Do I feel certain ways about it? Absolutely. I mean, you put effort in it that you don't see in what you view. Like, that 10-second video didn't take 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you care, but at the end of the day, like, I'm happy about the moment that was created and how it was shot, and we'll take it for that. And if it has impact amongst other people, then I'm happy about it, good or bad. But I'm not. I think I've learned to accept the fact that, like, as much as the comments and stuff mean something, I think at the end of the day, if you're happy with the final product, I think that's one of the key pieces that matters.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. Just recently, in editing some of the short clips that we've been posting, or that I've been posting for the podcast. In my head, I'm like, oh yeah, like, I wish this was generating more buzz. But then I think, and I look back, and I was like, did I have fun editing that video? Yes. Okay, then that was the goal. Like, I'm like you said, getting high off your own supply. I'm like, I'm laughing at myself or laughing at the video that I'm editing, because I'm like, this was just a fun conversation. How do you find the balance of that, of still having fun? Because I would imagine it's fun creating the content and editing the content. How do you find that balance within that?
Yeah, I have fun in the edit as well. I think in terms of like shooting it, you find out I think you find out in the edits, like, oh man, I should have shot it this way or I should have shot it that way. And I've come to be more accepting of the fact of, well, in that moment, that's how I felt I should have shot it. And then you can like usually storyboard or whatnot to kind of get what you think you want to get. But then sometimes that environment doesn't provide what you actually want. So like in the edit, it's like, okay, this is what I have. And I'm more accepting of the fact like that's what it is. And that's kind of when it starts to come alive. It's like, okay, well, this was the original idea. Now, how can the idea that I have in front of me still add to that original one? And kind of how do we make those bridges happen? So I think I try to find balance there of making what I have in the edit, what have in the edit just show.
So with you kind of, when you're talking about the editing process, I'm curious to know, do you see any parallels between shooting the content, editing the content, and then posting the content with being a dad? Because I feel like you have an expectation of how you're going to parent or how you're going to handle a specific situation. And then, like you said, you get back to your computer and you're like, all right, well, that shot didn't look the way I wanted it to, or whatever. The environment has an impact. Do you see any parallels with your content creating journey and being a dad of two?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you're feeding your kid, like you put the food on the plate and you think they're going to eat it in a certain way, right? You got to eat your fruit, and then you have to eat the what did they have earlier? That like pasta last time, and then drink your milk, right? It's like, okay, that's the vibe that we're going for. And then it comes dinner time, and no, we're not going to eat anything. We're going to have the milk. We're going to throw a fit, and I got to come back 20 minutes later so you can eat your pasta and blueberries, right? Like
Yep.
maybe you don't tackle certain sections when it's just not working. Maybe you leave for a second and come back. And I think that's probably the closest kind of analogy parallel that happens, is like you have this expectation of, all right, cool, like normal, just regular business. This is what's happening. And for whatever reason, maybe it just doesn't work out. But maybe you kind of take a step back or try a different order. Maybe look at it tomorrow in terms of edit wise, not feeding children wise.
No, feed them tomorrow. They'll be all right.
maybe you see it a little bit differently. And like in terms of like edits and posting, like I have like an internal clock of like, yeah, I'd like to post this tomorrow at a certain time. But maybe that night before I was like, I'm not too sure if this actually makes sense. Let me wake up in the morning and let me look at it again. And then does it make sense? Yeah, it's 80% there. Then you hit the post button. Like I said, you can be your own worst critic, and you can be in that editing bay forever and never hit the post button. So sometimes hitting that button is the hardest. And then from a kind of parent perspective, sometimes accepting the fact that you just have to ride out with what your children's emotions are at that moment and be a little bit more adaptable. Just knowing the fact you probably get there, but just exercising a little bit more patience to get to that point.
Yeah, because it definitely is a never-ending struggle being a parent, especially when they're like younger. It's like it's like jazz. There's no such thing as structure, no matter how bad you want it to be structure, or how bad you feel like you said, like you want them to take care of fruit first and then, drink some milk and eat your pasta at the same time. It's like, nah, dude, like I legit wanted chicken nuggets and you gave me some pasta. I'm now going to go off the beaten path. And you're like, all right, yeah, we got to go with the flow with the 4-year-old now, because like we can have a ruined night. I think Keith brought this up. Like we could have a ruined night, or we could just like go with the flow and get back to things and like attack a different situation at a different time. So,
but yeah, it's fun. I mean, do you take your kids to like the course?
My daughter does not want to go to the golf course. She's been to basketball practice with me a few times. She enjoys that a lot. But no, like I've tried to explain to her like why I like golf and what I do when I'm out there, and I show her like me chipping the ball in the backyard, and she's just like, and it's the sun is out, and I was like, yeah, it's like nice, it's a warm day, we're going walks. And her and my wife have opposite seasonal depressions. Like it gets warm outside, and my wife and my daughter both hate the world. I'm like, okay,
But how was it taking your daughter to ball with you that first time, right? Because it's kind of at least for me, like taking my son to the course for the first time, I was like, shoot, how long is it gonna last? Like, is he gonna like it, not like it? Like, how was it for you?
It definitely a great question. It definitely was a little. It was an uneasy feeling driving there. I'm texting her mom, texting my wife, and her mom's boyfriend. I'm like, hey, if she gets to a point where she cannot be here, I'm dedicated to these 12 kids contractually over my one daughter that I have for the rest of my life. So I can't just leave 12 babies. I'll never be able to coach again. So like, I need one of you guys to kind of be on alert just in case she doesn't want to be here, so y'all can come pick her up. But the entire time that she was there, I just kind of explained to her like what we were going to be doing there and why we were there, how long we were going to be there. What she saw was other little girls playing basketball too. Like that definitely made her. It gave her a different look of things. She ended up making a bunch of friends. All those little girls loved her, so it was great. It's like a bunch of babysitters, kind of.
That's a win.
Yeah, it definitely became a win. It was one of those like, oh no, oh yes moments. That's what it was.
100%.
Yeah, I was able to bring my daughter to the driving range, but she was what, 4 or 5 months old. So there was still that like ticking time bomb of like, all right, if she cries, either she needs a bottle or she needs to be changed or it's nap time. So in my head, I had to, like you had mentioned, adapt and be patient. I had to know that I'm like, all right, I'm not going to the driving range to practice. I'm going to decompress and just hit golf balls. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah. And just know at the drop of a hat, I'm maybe leaving a large bucket.
I gotta go
right there. I'm out. We're out.
I got to go.
That is what it is. Yeah, just being flexible and adaptable to that. And I mean, as much as I love golf, I love being on the range. I love just like not necessarily beating balls, but just like getting lost in a bucket of range balls. It's very therapeutic to me, and just to know that I'm like, all right, I may not be able to find that today, but in that moment, I was like, hey, just be appreciative. I'm like, I'm at the driving range hitting golf balls, and my daughter's just right there, and like she wasn't startled by like making contact with the ball or anything like that. So it was a peaceful moment in that. But I mean, I was there for maybe 20 minutes, and I was like, wish I could have been here for an hour, but gotta go home.
Like, how do you prioritize working with certain companies or doing certain content while also, like, how do you balance those things while also trying to be a parent and balancing like taking care of your wife and taking care of your kids and having those like moments and memories with them?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a big question. I think the support and family first is kind of the thing that comes to mind at the forefront. Is I have a supportive wife in terms of understanding that there's certain time aspects that are needed to do the things that I need to do. And then also kind of balancing kind of what are the kids' needs first in order to do the stuff that I would like to do. Because at the end of the day, like the stuff that I would like to create and make, it's important to me, but my kids and the family kind of are above that, like no question. So like how does that balance work within a week? How does that balance work within a day in terms of like school and work and kind of visits and kind of the number of doctor appointments and check-ins that you have like when you get a kid, right? They're not just good. It's not like a new set of golf clubs where you get one, you put it in the bag, and you're good till you need a new set. Like
you're good for 3 years.
There's some stuff that happens.
Like,
yeah, there's some stuff that happens.
I just gotta clean the grooves out. Make sure the grips are nice. It would be all right.
Shots for babies are no joke.
That's like low key a shot for yourself as a father. Like I hated when we used to go get the shots or even her ears pierced because that was a hard moment for me.
Yeah, like you get the shot, but then are they going to get sick? Like, are they going to need extra care? Like, I think having the first one was a better understanding of like, okay, this is what happens. And you have the second one, like, all right, I know what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen. And then it doesn't happen that way. And you're like, all right, cool. But yeah, again, back to the Oh yeah. So just putting them first in terms of like what's the family needs before we get anything started, and then in terms of like brands, I think I've been very not selective, but I've been very conscious about kind of brands to work with and not work with from the terms of being authentic, right? So like you see, I don't know, different influencers or creators that may work with just any brand, right? And based on kind of how you kind of look at their content, like it's just brand, 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 brand. And maybe they do like those brands to a certain extent. So I've been very kind of cognizant of like, I would like to work with X brand and X space because I thoroughly enjoy that brand and what they stand for versus something that I don't, right? Because I think when you create content, like that's going to come through in some way or another, not only for you, but also from the audience perspective. It's like, okay, you're doing this piece because you just want to sell me something, or there's a piece of the bag that you got that you just did, right? So does that kind of run into an issue of like, what do we do because we got to make ends meet? Sometimes, right? I think there's like a fine line that you got to make decisions for, but I've tried to lean to the side of like, I would like to create X because I like X, Y, and Z. Not, I would like to create X because there's a certain dollar figure attributed to it. Now, in a perfect world, do those two match? 100%. Can we get there? Maybe certain times and things like they happen, right? But I think that in terms of like the notion and the approach that I've had, like that's the goal. That's the absolute goal. But at the end of the day, you gotta support the family. So how do you do that without kind of tripping over your morals and kind of looking like a dummy, right? So just trying to keep to your word as much as you can.
Sometimes it's you have to align yourself with the right people to where they know and you know, like, all right, I could tell them like I right now I just need to like take a step back. This is too much. This is not enough. Like willing to put your family first is hard for a lot of people when they're trying to chase the bag, but to know that you've solidified yourself in a spot with your family and with your business to where you're not bag hunting, but the bag is coming and you're doing it the way that, like you said, your family can still come first. I admire that.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think, yeah, I mean, again, super optimistic, but like, I think if we do stuff for the right reasons and we're very like authentic in the stuff that we're doing, I think the bag comes eventually, right? And maybe that's just blind faith. But I think it comes. I think over time, someone's gonna notice, and you're gonna get that one video or that one hit where it's like, oh, that's what that person's about, and then everything that you've done before that has that snowball effect. I think the worst thing that can happen is you create something that isn't really what you do or what you want to be known for, and then that pops off, and now you got to create all that stuff that you really don't even like. So I think that's just, I think again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, do you want to grow like super fast and just be popping and go viral, but then you're just subject to kind of that thing that you made versus what you kind of feel on the inside?
That's how you get stuck doing TikTok dances.
No comment. But if I had some Jabberwocky moves, 100%, I'm dancing the whole time.
If you have it, if you got it,
the mask, 5, 6, everything, every day, every dance. Bet. I'm not crazy. I'm just dancing. 5, 6, 7, 8. Watch me work.
Watch this.
Watch this. Yo, that actually goes right into the inspiration of our promo video with Usher. We saw your Super Bowl clip with the Usher Raymond, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking funny. We need to do that for this podcast. So you, sir, are the inspiration of our promo video to introduce the podcast. So thank you for that, because that was
it was lit.
That was great content.
Thank you. That was fun. It was just one of those, like it was kind of cheesy to a certain extent, but I think it touched on certain aspects that like with like cinema and funny, and yeah, it was fun to do.
No, like
so,
I think
Usher didn't call.
Damn it. Son of a bitch. He didn't call us either, which
I know. Too big time.
Yeah, he got the big head. He got the big head. But no, I think in a lot of my fault, brother. I think in a lot of instances, you kind of need to be, corny to an extent to catch the right people. Laughs are laughs, man. Just have some fun while you're doing it.
No, for sure. Like you can't be too serious. It goes back to golf, right? You pull up and you got that one. You probably play with someone like that. He's just like super serious, just mad because he doesn't hit on fairway. He just, shooting the thing,
breaking clubs because I feel like I suck.
Breaking clubs. At the end of the day, you're on the course, right? You're on the course. You're trying to get better. Break a club. But I get it because it sounds like you've played other sports before, right? Like golf wasn't the first.
Yeah, I played basketball, football, and I ran track, and those are I'm naturally good at those. So it's tough to get into a sport where you act like it's not you or the stick or the ball. It's legit where the ball is placed on this large plot of land, and for some reason they're lining it with trees, and the objective is this big on the ground in a place that's it's so hard. It's so hard. But I'm so happy that I found it because it's a challenge daily.
Well, I played a little bit of ball back then, and the frustrating thing with golf is like the ball's still, like it's not even moving. It's just there. Like there's no defense. I don't got to worry about it. It's just there, just sitting there. And it's just frustrating that it doesn't go where I want it to go.
What's been the hardest time that you've had on the golf course? Like, have you ever had those moments of just like, not that you break a club, because I don't think that you would be breaking clubs, but like that point of just like, do I really just want to be here, or do I want to walk off this golf course because I'm just over it?
Yeah. So like when I played when I was younger, so part of it of not playing was like the junior rate expired and it just became exponentially more expensive. So that was part of it. And two, like I just didn't enjoy the game. Like I was to the point of like, I just don't like this anymore. Like I didn't like shooting what I shot. Like I wasn't happy at the end of the day. I just wasn't happy at the end of the day. And that was the point where like, I don't want to play this game. And then, like I said, I came back to the game and was like, all right, well, there's nothing else to do. Let's go to the range. Let's go hit. And then there was a newfound love. It's like, I actually like this game, not for the scores that I shoot, but how I feel, like you said, very at peace and very in a sense of solace that was therapeutic and good and freeing and peaceful and all those kind of real, just tranquil words. That's why I came back into the game. That's why I play now. Like, obviously, I want to play well. I don't want to be not good, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, there's still that competitive piece to it and that fire, but there's that therapeutic aspect where it's like, oh, I've decompressed and I've allowed that to be part of my process and creation. It's like I do a shoot, I go into the edit. If I don't feel a certain way, I'm going to go to the range, or I'm going to go play 9 or 18 just to understand how I feel and how aware I am. Yeah. And then I'll get back in the lab and cook a little bit. But it's been part of the process in that sense, not just to play to shoot a certain score.
Nice. So you really do like kind of use golf as your place of solace, because like I use music that way. I like if I feel like I'm stuck in one of these edits, or like things are just where I'm like, man, I just need to breathe. I'll get a joint. I'll go in the bathroom and play some music and just like sitting there and vibe out to like Curtis Blow or Curtis Mayfield, one of those guys, and just like let the music kind of recenter me and then get me back to wanting to vibe out again. What are some of your other hobbies that kind of like reset you or allow you to like unwind and not feel like you're always attached to either your phone or to work?
Yeah, music. I throw on an old Kanye track, some College Dropout, Dark Twisted Fantasy, and just kind of let it ride. And just, that's just what it is. Like I'll just maybe stare in some blank space or just kind of chill there. Or I'll throw on a movie that I've seen like 100 million times and just let it play. Like I'm a big fan of just like ambience in the way like I can't think. I'll let something else spark thought. So I think those are two kind of things that I will proactively do. And other than that, just kind of like family, right? It's just like you close the computer, you turn off the phone, and you just chill with the kid and just watch Miss Rachel or Bluey or whatever they want to watch and kind of just hang out or go to the park.
This man his
Yeah,
Bluey.
like
Bluey's no joke.
Blue.
Four
Bluey's
fathers
no
have been on this episode. We've had 5 episodes, dude. 4 fathers have talked about Bluey. What am I missing? I mean, my daughter's 7, so what am I missing?
I mean, first off, I was thrown that Bluey was a different gender than I thought initially. So that had me even more hooked. But it's very catchy. There's like a cool intro where they're dancing. It's about like puppies and blue dogs and family stuff. It's cool. There's that, and there's like Blue's Clues. Shout out to Blue's Clues because the dude that they have now, he's a Filipino dude. So that makes me feel a certain way inside because he used to be a white dude who like left the face of the earth. Shout out to you, Steve, because I'm glad you're back. But yeah, the new guy, Josh, he's Filipino, and I love that.
Nice.
But yeah, Bluey hits a little bit different for whatever reason. Maybe because they're Australian. Also could be it.
That's Australians and Canadians are like inherently nice people, so I think that definitely is a win for them.
I think maybe
Big
one
win.
of our next episodes, Blair, we're just gonna have to like stream a Bluey episode. I'll find the perfect episode to get you to watch. But yeah, you gotta watch it. Bluey's next level.
At least one.
Yeah, we all got to give it the good old college try. I guess. Your hobbies are just like what it sounds like is just being the boring dad. Not disrespectfully, bro, but like being boring is cool.
Yo, that's the coolest.
No, like I'm in a different stage in my life, right? If you rewound back, I don't know, like 10 years or now, I'd be like, yeah, we went out, we came back at like 3, we had like Jack in the Box, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I got kids now, and I'm in just a different mode where I just want to be there for them. I think part of that is the way that kind of I grew up in terms of like the parental dynamic, right? There's a certain understanding of things that happened and didn't happen. And I think those parts of it sit really deep with me. And I want to make sure that the good parts remain the good parts and the bad parts are changed in a different way where they kind of stick with them in a longer way, better sense or however you kind of would say that. But yeah, I just want to be there. And when we fast forward to however many years, like I just want to be kind of the dad that was there for them and kind of help them along their way. It's a little bit easy now because you just kind of hold them and love them and just make sure that you're right there when they call for you. I don't know what it's going to be like when they're, like you said, when yours is 7 or when they're like 12 or 14, when they have different emotions and attitudes and they're like, I hate you or I love you or come pick me up somewhere. Like, I don't know what that is right now. And I don't know where it's going to be, but it kind of in this moment in time, I'm enjoying the fact that kind of I'm just still dad and I'm somewhat cool. And I'm just going to kind of hold on to that for as long as I can. And hopefully it's a little longer than I think it's going to be.
It definitely will be, man. I think the biggest parts of, and my advice to we've said it, we've asked other people, but my advice to myself, don't be too hard on yourself because at each stage they accept you and love you for who you are. They're just growing human beings every single day. So when you do dope shit, you just got to make sure you guide them to be dope ass human beings that you will want to go out and get like brunch with one day. Because right now, again, my daughter being 7, does she like me? Yes. Am I her favorite person out of the 4 people that she sees on a daily basis? No. I think my dog is a little higher than me. But I mean, I'm fine with that because I know in this moment right now, mom is everything, which it should be. And if it's not mom, it's stepmom, which is my wife, and it should be. But there's going to come a time, and Hannah, you know this, there's going to come a time where Shorty does not like mom anymore. And guess who gets the dub?
Hey.
Dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool ass
that's
dad.
Right.
Yeah, so I just, I'm playing my part. I'm playing my part. I'm letting her know, like, this is the cool house. Like, we do have structure and rules. And I think that's the biggest part is, like, being consistent. And you were saying that it's like, you just want them to know, like, when they look, years in the future, like, the things that mattered, you were there. It's like, hell yeah. They are, like, being present is the greatest gift a dad can give your kid. So, and I'm speaking from a kid who didn't have a dad, so I can definitely tell you if that nigga was around, it would have been great. Because I know what it looks like
Word.
when you are around. My daughter shows me daily. It's cool.
100%. Yeah. Well, mine came late as well, so like I think we've on that same type of wavelength, right? Just to be there is a big thing. And then when someone does come around, you know what that feels like.
Mhm.
Not for the sense of just taking a place, but being another set of ears and eyes that you know is there for guidance when you need it or not, right? I think that availability is just huge for anyone, and especially for a kid as they're growing. So yeah, just trying to make sure that they're happy in there and well fed, and make sure they eat their damn blueberries and pastas and shit. Sorry.
No, you good, brother. You good. I've literally been drinking whiskey and taking little hits of weed this entire time. So this is my father time.
Self-care.
Baby.
Self-care. That's real. That's real. So Ube, you kind of touched on it. Those moments of decompression of just turning on a movie, or a soundtrack or music or whatever. That for me, it's like my go-to movie, and I'm mad that I didn't mention this when we did our top 5 Marvels. That go-to movie for me is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because it is such a good movie, and the soundtrack kind of carries throughout the whole movie, and you kind of get lost in that universe. What are those movies that you find yourself getting lost in? And obviously, you kind of mentioned the Kanye albums, but what's that movie that you just turn on and just kind of get lost in?
Hold on, before you answer that, this man has, for 3 days in a row now, tried to add to his goddamn list. Your list was your list when we hit export, brother. You can't add shit to it. You can't come in because everybody else is dropping it.
It's on record. This is an episode. This is a part of the
and it's on record
story.
that you keep adding. I don't like it. We throwing flags on the plate next time.
The title of the title of the segment was MCU. I've added because it's not technically MCU. Okay, so
there you go. Okay, whatever. I'm sorry, Ube. Back to your answer.
Hey, I don't got no dog in this fight, y'all.
Interpersonal beef that could have waited, but you know what I'm saying.
Let me grab some popcorn. I'll be right back. Spider-Verse. That was the first one, right? The first one.
Yeah, the first. Yeah, with Miles Morales. Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Soundtrack with Kendrick. Oh, yes. But as for the movie, Happy Gilmore is one of them. Just because Adam Sandler is hilarious. That movie it's golf. It's hilarious. It's also one like if you want to be. I think part of me choosing the movie is that if you choose to be interactive with the movie, you can like repeat what they're saying, right? On the movie. So like, it's kind of like you're part of it. So like, that's one of them. Ready Player One is an enjoyable movie.
Oh, that's a good one.
Steven Spielberg. And that's, I guess more like not more recent, but like I find myself watching that more just because of the dynamic of just like this dystopian universe or whatnot, and kind of how all that plays out. I think that one's probably one of the favorites. Jurassic Park is one of them too, just because I don't know. I think part of it's just like what universe can I put myself in from a viewing perspective that's different than like just regular life and world.
Mm-hmm.
I think those, and then what was another one? The last, the end of the Avengers, just because it's just an epic ending. Like it's just dope. Like it's just a good closeout. And then other than that, like there's like a good movie that Endgame. Yeah. The second one though. The second one
for sure. Yeah.
The first one was a cliffhanger. I was like, come on, But the second one was a good ending. Other than that, like if there's a good movie that's out, like from like a favorite director or whatnot, like that's cool. Just because you think different. Like I just don't know what to expect, right? It's like when you pull up to a new golf course, it's like, all right, well, there's 18 holes. I got to hit it in play here and there. What's going to happen? I don't know. We'll find out in 4 hours. So like, so like with a new movie, it's kind of the same thing. But I know that because of the whoever shot it or how it was shot, it's like, okay, hopefully it's good. Um, and then it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, you're like, okay, cool. Like maybe there's some things that happened in that movie that I could take away and apply to certain like aspects of content. So
do you take a lot of inspiration from any particular director or other content creator that you see in the space?
Yeah. So I think so Spielberg wise, like I think that's why I watched like Ready Player One, just kind of the way that kind of that edit happens and then kind of how that movie progresses. Um, Obviously who James Cameron from Avatar, just from a very longer form story aspect, like how do you take something from like the very genesis of a movie and then get to the very end, and kind of what are those pockets in time and what do they look like. Creator wise or kind of people in the space wise, so like the way Christian Hafer, like Golfer's Journal, Koji from Golfer's Journal, the way like they shoot, kind of the tones and aspects. I mean, there's like a number of them to name. Like that's kind of the most recent one that I've kind of taken a look at. And then there's other conversations that you have like with friends in the space, right? Like what are they creating and how are they creating and what are like their aspects and views and perspectives on like the entire like golf like landscape, or just even what are they aiming to create. So like names that come to mind are like Students Golf, Quiet, like golf projects, like Land Force and Jordan Rogers, and kind of like those types of personalities and people, like how do they see the world, because albeit it's different from any one of us, and how does that apply to their content. So yeah, I think that list changes kind of on a day to day. Like there's certain pockets of time that I'll like just scroll and consume content. I think that's part of it too. Like there's the creation and there's the consumption, and sometimes one is way off balance, but I try to take time to consume and scroll and kind of see where others are at, and like what are the feelings that are invoked by what you see, and like how does that make me feel, and does that resonate in anything that I want to create. So
I got a question. It's not on the list or anything. It's just like as you were talking.
Oh, you can't be adding to the list, man.
Yeah, fuck it, yeah, right. We're out. That's it. That's the episode. Y'all have a good one.
Got you.
That was a real good one. That's a great callback. We live for the callbacks here. What were some of the things that you saw growing up that kind of made you steer towards photography and videography as like a passion of yours?
Yeah. So it started with photography first, and it was just capturing. It was like one of those electives you take in like high school or whatnot, right? It's like, oh, this looks cool, and then I took it. You do the whole darkroom experience, and you take photos. And you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like just knowing like how these things take place, and then you take kind of electives in school. Like, oh, let me learn a little bit more about like art history and like just art and how these different forms and mediums take place. So I think that was kind of the first kind of sip of that Kool-Aid, and like, okay, cool. This is like, in terms of like creative, this seems very interesting. And I think for me, in terms of like upbringing, is that like as Filipino, like you got to be a doctor or a nurse or like an engineer. So like conversations into the creative world, like, you sure you want to do that? So being stubborn and rebellious was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. So it didn't happen till later, right? Like it just took years to get to a place where you're like comfortable, where it's just like, it's not really a hobby anymore. Like it's more of something you can make into a career. And learning along the way, like if I made this sort of jump back then, like I wasn't ready. Like I don't think I would know how to look or shoot or put together things. So in terms of like timing, and like we were saying, like father time being kind of one of the best teachers, is that taking all of those experiences, and good and bad, and being able to be okay with the decision that you make at that time. I think time was probably the best thing for me. And all those happened to kind of work out to where I felt comfortable in a decision and things were in a place where it's like, okay, yeah, I think this is the time to make it work. And then honestly, like it could end tomorrow or next week, but I get optimistically hope it'll ride out for a while and like some of the pieces that get created kind of last a little bit longer. But
brother,
that was kind of the point.
Brother, I look at the content that you create, and I'm like, how do you not answer that question? Like, oh, I'm gonna be here for the next 15 years because I'm the Steven Spielberg of golf content. Because that's how I see it. I'm like, thank you for your humble answer, but I'll be the arrogant black guy. This is the next Steven Spielberg of golf content creation. Y'all just gotta catch up.
Catch the wave.
Catch up, niggas.
I mean, if it happens, it happens. But I think, like I said, if the story is told in a way that matters to yourself and a larger majority and is tasteful, I think that'll outshine. So yeah, hopefully we get a chance to do it. A24, love your stuff. Holler at your boy. But
please,
yeah, like
I love A24 too. You know how
like
many times I done reached out to them? I ain't even good at shit yet.
Moonlight. I like how A24 like they're moody, like, and they like there's it's a little bit of like
they have grunge movies.
To it.
They literally let you make a grunge movie, dude. Like here's $1 million. We don't care what you bring back. Just make something new. Make something different.
I think they're underrated. Like I think they're underrated as just a
as movies in general,
a movie producing platform. Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, if they had their own streaming service, I think they would do numbers.
Oh yeah, I would. Don't put it into the world, but I'd buy that over Netflix for sure. Because like,
if they keep raising their prices,
yeah, just let folks share the password.
That's all you got to do. Go back to that. You're gonna get your money back ASAP. Numbers go up by 50%.
We'll kind of in line with that. As we record this episode. The hype for the week has been Full Swing. Now, I've got my own thoughts on Full Swing. If you were kind of in charge of that next season, how would you kind of tell those stories?
Okay. I enjoyed season 2 better than I enjoyed season 1. Just from the fact that they covered a little bit more players. It was a little bit more in depth. They didn't spend as much time on the cut. And I think they took fan feedback like all in and created a better season. Was there stuff that I really enjoyed? Absolutely. So like the way that they highlighted creators in the space, and really talked about therapy and really leaned into the fact of like the emotions of golf, right? And like they didn't toe around it, right? We just went right into it. I enjoyed that part. I really enjoyed the part where they shot like the Ryder Cup and like the reactions and how all those decisions were made. And then obviously they covered more players. I was a little disappointed that they didn't include Blocky in it. It was a major story that was in there, at least from just a golf fan. I found it interesting that they spent time on Live, and I think they had to be bureaucratic with it. But yeah, I think it was interesting that there's more plug in there for Live in general, and yeah, transparency. I don't care which tour. Like I'm a fan of both, but I didn't think it was going to be as much in the next season given what was happening. And then in terms of next season, and bringing in just getting stories of more players. So I hope they do a story on Jake Knapp, right? I hope they do a story on the first time winners on tour. And I hope they go a little bit deeper into kind of what it was before they got on tour, as part of that story, right? Because I think that's a very important aspect and element to a non-golf fan. It's because I think some people have the notions like, oh, you play golf, you were just naturally this good, you didn't really have to go through any trials and tribulations. But like with all sports, like you gotta go through the ringer to get to where you end up being, right? Like yes, there's like a LeBron James, but then there's also that journeyman who went through G League, played in Europe, didn't play, then came back, and then finally made it to the league, right? Like I kind of want to know that story or know more about that. Like we cover a lot of the players, top level players, and they're always covered. Like we know their stories. Like I know every time Tiger Woods like eats a sandwich or like ties a shoe wrong or has a different set of socks on.
Yep.
But I don't know about the other hundreds of players that are there that are just as important to the collective of the league, even though they might not do the same numbers. So maybe that lives in a different series. But I think in terms of like golf content as part of what's shown to like a national and worldwide audience, like I think we could do better and do more just because there's money in it. And I think they get money. Like that's, I don't think it's far-fetched to get
my quick 2 cents on it. You always hear it in the coverage. They find a way to mention Tiger. Always, no matter what. He's not in the tournament, whatever. They find a way to mention him. That's my big takeaway with Full Swing is they find a way to mention him when he's not even in the project. So Butch Harmon, Chris Como, Sean Foley, they all show up and at the bottom it says Tiger's coach, once Tiger's coach or something like that. And I'm like, they coached other players, other good players, mind you. Why do you have to mention like, oh, he used to be Tiger's coach?
Mm-hmm. No, they didn't. That was his only one. That's the only student.
It's the only guy that's ever done anything successful.
As they're coaching players that they're talking about right now, they're saying, "Oh, he used to be Tiger's coach too."
It's crazy.
I'm like, Butch is really the only in my head is the only one you can mention with any sort of like meat and potatoes of it because Tiger was winning. But with Sean Foley and Chris Como, no shade to them, but he wasn't winning with them. Like he was searching for something new with everything. But I get what you're trying to say with trying to highlight those stories of like someone coming from the G League, kind of like that documentary that they had with Jeremy Lin. Like it showed the journey of him and then blowing up to insanity. Living on the East Coast during that time was nuts.
This dude legit is hitting 35 footers versus Toronto to win the game. That's when he got me though. That shot when he called a 1-4 flat, but he called a 1-4 flat with 7 seconds left and dribbled in front of a dude for 7 whole seconds and then proceeded to just dot him in the face. I was like, oh man, this dude's solidified in the hood. He can go anywhere and hoop. like
cold-blooded. Just to touch on the coach thing, yeah, I think if they highlight some coaches too, right? Like the players don't get there like they get there, right? Like let me get a whole thing of coaches.
Yeah.
One of the coaches that stands out is Dana Dahlquist. I don't know if you don't follow him, you should follow him. Like just information, just pure information in terms of like golf swing. Also, like he's worked with Hovland and like Jake Knapp and like folks that are like playing some golf. So like, yeah, like we need to highlight people that are part of that process and not just like the people that you see making the putt at the end of the day. So there's so much more.
When you hear the phrase grow the game, I got into golf around that time where everybody was pushing that narrative. What does grow the game look like when you kind of think about what we could have, like with stories about coaches, with putting it's very hard to find the APGA, like to watch it on TV. Yeah. It's very hard to find it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's very hard to find like LPGA Tour, so unless you have NBC and cable. So besides making it like easier to watch, what other ways can we grow the game? And also, is it things like bringing back guys like AK and having him as a wild card during Live? Like, is that another way to grow the game? Like, what are ways that we can get more eyes on players that aren't Tiger, Brooks, or Rory?
Yeah. I think to dig that like all the way down to the bottom is just like you're gonna find like access, right? So like these guys don't exist unless there's programs when they were younger to play. So I think the SCGA does great in terms of like the SCGA junior program of like getting kids part of programming in underserved communities as well as just communities in general to play golf, right? Like they have the program where if you have like an adult that plays, like the kid is $5 to play. It's their youth on course program, right? So like
Nice.
having more programs like that to play golf. Like I didn't have that growing up. Like it just cost whatever the rack rate was to play. And obviously price is a barrier in golf, like 100%. Like with ball, you could just go to a court and just shoot on a hoop with no net. Hopefully, if it's in a good community, you got a net. Golf
If it's
is
in a
different.
bad community, you got a chain net.
You got a double rim.
You got a chain net.
Yeah,
you got a double rim. You got a double rim.
Create shooters.
You got that double. You got that double rim. You could be fire on that double rim and get to the game and you trash.
Yeah.
Whoo, that double rim gets you.
Jesus.
But yeah, like access, right? Like how can we make it easier for kids to play golf and have them part of that community? And whether or not they go pro, they're going to take home certain life skills that they probably wouldn't get. And then from a kind of tour perspective, like how could we allow more people into the game? Or I think Liv's done a really good thing with like the wild card, right? So the PGA has the sponsors exemption as well as the Monday qualifying. Like, is there a way to extend that to make a larger field? Can we include APGA exemptions into that field as well, right? Like that tour doesn't get enough love, not because I don't think it's because there's money involved, right? It's just because the PGA Tour is the upper echelon, it's the league, it's the zone. But like the brothers that play on that tour, they need love too. Like
Willie Mack
they
the
play
third,
golf.
Flint, Michigan, stand up.
Willie Mack, Aaron G's, Joe Hooks, right?
Yeah,
they can play. Yeah. Like they can play golf. Like how do we elevate that? And as someone who's not white, like that's what I want to see. Like growing up, there weren't really any Asian people golfing. Like so for me, Tiger was kind of like the only choice because I didn't feel relatable and nothing resonated with me at that point. Do we live in a different day and age where that is drastically different? Absolutely, yeah. Like there's Colin, there's
That's
Harold
my
Varner
guy.
III, even though he left, right? Ricky even has a different attitude than kind of that old school golf mentality, right? Like, so how can
Ricky's supposed to be native as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's
like
native.
how can we create something that people like there's a better product where it's more relatable to a larger audience? And I think what it comes down to, I guess, and humbly, is like the infrastructure, right? Like I forgot who I was watching, but the PGA or like these entities have created an infrastructure for them to succeed, right? And it's proven, they're doing well, they're flourishing. So it is risky to allow, whether it's a certain audience or a different sense of programming, to change that infrastructure that is kind of set in stone, right? And to allow something new. But I think for like meaningful change to happen, we need to allow that sort of thing. So how can we get more eyes on that show a more positive and holistic product? So yeah, seeing the stuff with Full Swing and Netflix and just shining that light on golf, showing that it's different and there's more things that happen behind the scenes aside from 4 rounds of golf and figuring out who gets $4 million at the end of the week. Like it's more than that. So I don't think money is a huge issue. I think we can kind of put funds in other places, and maybe we worry less about how much that FedEx Cup bonus is and how can we take some of those funds, not all, because you know the tour players got to get paid, and sponsors got to get paid, but how can we kind of divvy the funds up where it creates just a larger opportunity for people that play golf or they don't play golf. So when you fast forward 20 years, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe the golf ball rollback wasn't the best way to spend our money. And maybe doing this, it allows for a better product 20 years later, right?
For sure, so
yeah. I think we got some choices that we can make. Maybe have someone else in the room.
I think that's the biggest thing is like they aren't allowing the right new people in the room when it comes to conversation about change, or like what's going on with the TGL or whatever it's called. Like, are we allowing LPGA members to be a part of that? Like, do they have teams? Are they a fourth member on the team? Is it a citywide tour? Or are we just going to one place? It's so many different things that we could do in order to make the game grow. A lot of these courses out here are losing money because they stop. I mean, LA doesn't, but they out here in Oregon, they stop letting people play golf at 6:00 on certain days. we got a lot of beautiful courses. Like instead of putting trees on the course, put a couple big ass lights out there with glow in the dark balls, and let us have some like night golf. So many different ways that you can have the game of golf be easily accessible and also fun while still making your money. You don't got to charge arm and leg. Still make your money, but make it where it's fun for everybody and any and everybody can do it.
No, yeah, like mom would say, come back when it's dark, right? Like what if we applied that attitude to golf, and like night golf is fantastic. Like courses aren't long enough. Like usually you just play par threes or whatnot, but like night golf is great. Like what if there was a safe space to do that for different age groups, right? So yeah, just thinking of things that we didn't have, and I think it's funny because like people say like, oh, we don't have enough money, but I think if we changed focus on where we should spend that, I think we could find a place for that.
Yep.
Like, right? Like there's, depending on who's in the room, like an example, like Roger Steele would have a different opinion than like a CEO of like a different company when it comes to creating access, right? Like what if we had someone like him in the room being able to kind of hold the torch and the voice for kind of the people to help elevate the game, right? What if we did that more versus like, oh, we can't do that because it's lessens our gross profit by 10%, so it's probably not the best thing.
So like Blair said, like we don't want to keep you too long. I do want to kind of give you one chance to kind of tell us who you think we should have as a guest for some much needed father time, whether that be other creators or just people that you think could add to the content that we or the conversation that we have as fathers.
Yeah, for sure. I think we touched on it on just that last question, right? I think Roger, if he is available, just as a voice and someone who really echoes what kind of the golf space needs and needs to hear, right? I think he would be kind of a great host. And from a very big brand aspect, again, based on the last question, is Jeff Cottrill from Topgolf, right? We're talking about how do we create access of the game and not worry about the bottom line, and hopefully those decisions help drive golf. I think what he's doing with the team, but what they're doing with Topgolf and putting Topgolf locations in basically everywhere and trying to make it affordable in the sense of what their business structure is, and just kind of creating more for golf. Like I think him and Callaway and Topgolf and what they're doing, and they're really putting their stake in the ground and creating and having their sense of their addition of creators kind of help elevate the game. I think they're like all in, and even if it's not on the pod, just to chat or just kind of get insight on kind of how he feels about the state of the game would be a huge addition, and it'd be fun to actually just kind of hear his thoughts because he's I think he'd be great.
If we could say anything to the directors over at Topgolf and Callaway, I've said this a few times. Please open up one here in Eugene. I got nowhere to go indoors to play golf, and I really need one. My game would be so much better if you guys just made one for me. I don't need nothing fancy. Just let me come to the grand opening and make me the star of the show. Small things like that. Really quick before you get up out of here, bro. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a father at your stage or a father at any stage from where you are to where your beginning stage?
I mean, the easiest piece of advice is kind of enjoy the moment of where you're at. Wherever you're at in terms of like how old the kid is or whatever your life situation is, because that's not your final destination, right? That's just a piece of it. And whether it's good or bad, just to keep riding it out and kind of enjoy that ride. One of the things that I do with kind of like the kids is I'll kind of hold them and I'll just kind of close my eyes for a second. Like I would consciously do it. Just to kind of take that snapshot of like, this is a moment between me and the kid, and it's kind of like a photo, right, where it just kind of stops for that second. There's no reactions or anything to it. It's just something that I kind of do. It's just like that moment that we have for that day. regardless of what else happened in the day. And then we go through the normal routine. So it's not really regimented, but I always try to find a time where like you kind of just do that little thing. And hopefully that just kind of sticks with you and you remember it. And yeah.
Like just taking a beat and just kind of appreciating that moment and kind of grounding yourself with your child. Like I'm gonna take that one. I like that.
Yeah, you got to. You still got a baby, man. She still wants. She'll like it. I mean, I feel like if I grab her up here right now and I hold her for a solid minute, I might get elbowed.
She might just chop you right in the throat.
I gotta like
I'm
put
gonna
her
drop
in a
him
log.
off at college.
I gotta put her in a
I'm gonna
fucking
drop him
log.
off at college and hold him for like 5 and just be embarrassing.
Oh yeah. Oh, she knows.
Blair and I, we talked about this. When our kids go to college, like we're retiring, we're moving wherever the campus is. Like that's just where we're relocating.
Oh,
hey!
I got years of eligibility left. I'm gonna try out for a team.
I got 1 year of eligibility left.
Oh, I got 4 years. We rolling.
I got 1 year of eligibility left. Let me get that in, coach.
It's gonna be bad boys in the dorm, baby.
Ube, we appreciate you stopping by for some much needed father time and chopping it up with us about fatherhood and golf. Obviously, 2 things that we are very passionate about. But to our audience, y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to rock with us here at Father Time. And just want to thank y'all for tuning in. And I am your host, D'Amico. It's my co-host, Blair. And we appreciate you. Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you.